everybody? Welcome to another episode of Behind the Wheel Podcast. I'm Luis from KONIG, and we have a very special guest here today. This company has been working with us for a very long time, GoGoGear. We have his protege, Ali Arsham's, Reza Arsham, with us today.
Nice to be here.
How you doing, my brother?
Very good. Very glad to be here in the booth. Obviously, behind us we have the newest addition to the GoGoGear fleet of racing cars and stuff like that. And, of course, it had to be on KONIG's.
And I'm excited just because we get to see it here at SEMA first. If you're missing it, you're missing it, unfortunately. But you will get to see a car walk around, a car anatomy of this episode, of this car, where Reza just basically gives us the full details of everything that's happening to this car. And I'm telling you, this car has gotten so much praise at this show. Bro, everybody loves this car.
Yeah, it was difficult trying to keep it under wraps, before the show. So everyone we talked to wanted pictures of the car and everything, but we were like, hold on, wait, you got to go to the KONIG booth at SEMA, and that's where we debuted the car, and yeah, it's been great.
Now, before we get to know you a little bit better, how are you enjoying the show? Besides being here, how are you enjoying SEMA so far?
It's been great. So this is my second year coming as someone to kind of view the whole show. I have memories from my childhood being 5 years old and coming and seeing my dad. He had his cars here back in the early 2000s. So I remember kind of little snippets of coming here and not walking the show, but just being amazed with all the cars and everything that were here. Yeah. So no, this year's been great. It's much larger than the last time I was here. So
yeah, last year there was a little problem out there, which was COVID. There was something going around like COVID, and unfortunately there was nobody here like that. Yeah. But this year it's back in action. There's a lot of people here. There's a lot of foot traffic, and obviously we got some really cool cars. Even within the booth, like I said, we have this Type R right behind us. That's a sick car. But I want to get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah.
One thing I do know about your family, and when I say this, GoGoGear has been working with us for over 20 years, I would probably say.
Yeah, over 20
you know what I mean?
years.
Like, Ali has had a great relationship with everyone from Rick to Joe to now Scott to myself. And now we have Reza with us, and you're the next generation coming up. But I want to know, what's it like growing up in a family that's just motorsport centric?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my dad obviously doing all of the racing and cars, so growing up with that was, always everything's about cars, right? So even my mom and my younger sister, my mom raced when I was actually when she was pregnant with me, and then shortly after as well. So
no way.
I was I was at the racetrack when I was a few months old, and kind of grew up there, and always cool. Being around cars. So I have a story actually when I was in kindergarten, like one of the first couple days of kindergarten. The teachers were very confused because I was asking the other kids what kind of like cars and race cars that their parents had, and I was like, oh, so what kind of race cars do you have? And it
was just the norm for you.
It was just the norm, right? I was like, oh yeah, we have Civics. Like, what do you have? Do you have BMWs or what do you? And then they kind of were like, oh, that's not normal. we don't really do that. It was like, no, I don't know.
Amazing.
They're into something else. Yeah. So
that's amazing.
It's definitely been just kind of like all in, right? It's been always about cars, about motorsport. I've been, since I was 7 was the first year I can remember watching F1, and so I remember watching Kimi. That was the year Kimi won, and ever since then I've been like a Ferrari fan. And then now it's been really cool to see, with Drive to Survive and everybody kind of being all into F1, and they come to me, hey, I watch F1, I kind of understand like your aspect of cars and racing. And so recently it's been very nice to kind of talk to people who kind of now have that insight through a lot of the social media channels. And kind of are like, now they're like, oh, that's really cool, and now they're it's generating a lot of interest, kind of trickling down to what we do.
Sure, yeah. So I know you've been, what age were you when you first just got behind the wheel?
Yeah.
Podcasts, Behind the Wheel?
Behind the Wheel. That's a good one.
Yeah, you like that.
I was 5 years old. So
5 years old?
5 years old, yeah.
What did
5
you drive?
years old, we were doing go-karting.
Oh, okay.
So obviously when you're 5 years old, the path is always, okay, you're going to go to F1, you're going to be, I don't know, you're going to be Fernando Alonso or somebody like that, right? Yeah. What they don't tell you is you need millions and millions of dollars to do that.
100%.
So we started in a cart that we actually got. It was like a kid cart meant for 5 to 7 year olds. And we got that from a friend used, and it was an older cart. And so we went and said, okay, we're going to race this. And we go, and it was very immediately apparent that our go-kart was much slower than everyone else's go-kart. Yeah. So even at the 5 to 7 year olds, not only did we have, used and old equipment, people showed up with fancy stuff. They had trailers.
Yeah.
We put it in the back of the truck. Like they had pit crews and teams and everything. It was serious. And we just kind of showed up with what we had, and that was about it. So there was one race I remember, we're going and driving, and then I actually found my way. There was a crash. I found my way through it, and I was in the lead of the race. Yeah. And so I'm 5 years old. I'm pushing like heck, right? I'm just driving as fast as I can. And with a few laps to go, one of the guys who had basically factory support just came by and just blew past me on the straightaway like it was nothing. And that kind of really symbolized for me, okay, this is great, but we're going to need a little bit more funding or more support or something like that, because it really was a display of you can be as great as you are, but if you don't have the money, then it's not going to be, you can't really make it.
That's a tough part. We actually had a podcast the other day and having the similar conversation. It's not cheap to do this stuff.
No, it definitely isn't.
It's an expensive hobby.
Yes.
It costs a lot of money. That's why that's why we have these type of events like SEMA, you know what I mean? Because we get to shake hands with the right people. We need the support to do that. Obviously, Reza got tons of support in his build, and we're going to talk about it on the Car Anatomy, where he goes through a lot of the stuff that he has on here. But more than that, although we have the passion for it, it also takes money. But the passion is the drive that gets you to where you want to be.
Exactly, yeah.
So is this the first chassis you started with, the FK8?
This is not. So my kind of car racing introduction started at just about 16 when I got my license.
Okay.
My first car was the E36 4-cylinder, driving that around. Not the fastest car, 138 horsepower, but it was a fantastic car, and drove that around, drove it on the track, got my, learning heel toe and all these, fundamentals for driving. And then I've driven a bunch of different platforms, driven Mazda RX-8s and stuff like that, just trying to get my hands on everything. And the first race car I ever drove kind of was okay, you've done street cars, you've kind of proved yourself there. We have a older EK Civic coupe. So hopped into that on a track I'd never driven before, and it was actually my first front-wheel drive experience as well. And I distinctly remember driving the car around the track, and I got out of the car and I told my dad, I don't like this. This is no good. I can't do front drive. Can't do Hondas. It's not going to work. But then, what you have available at the time is, okay, we got to do this, and you have that passion, right?
Yep.
And so it was completely about reinventing your driving style, because coming from go-karts, I'm used to rear drive, fast, twitchy. You got to be able to catch the car and do all that. But the front drive was completely different. So that took a couple years of getting used to the front drive, and really it was just about wanting to prove to everyone that you can do it at that level, right? When you're 16, 17, 18 years old and you want to get into a series like United States Touring Car Championship, they kind of are not, against you, but they're kind of okay, what does this kid got, right?
Yeah.
You got to go out there and prove to them that you can, race with the big boys and be very competitive. So that kind of drive to show and that you're not just there to be there, but you deserve to be there in that series. So that kind of pushed me to really learn front-wheel drive, and I think that knowing both platforms, front and rear drive, has really made me better, because you apply the same techniques to front and rear drive. So just trying to improve and drive as much as I can.
Awesome. Now, tell me a little bit about GoGoGear.
Yes.
Now, I know it, but this is the purpose of this podcast is so they know who you are and what your team is about.
So GoGoGear actually is a sign and sticker company.
Yes.
So they do a lot of promotional products. So a lot of the wraps and stickers and stuff, we make that in-house. If you want T-shirts or hats or anything, we do promotional products. And obviously we have a lot of racing involvement, so we'll do trophies and awards and stickers and stuff for race cars, but that's kind of been the day-to-day aspect of things. And then the team itself started very small with a few cars, just what my dad had, and now we're at 7 or 8 cars now that are all yellow.
Amazingly fast cars.
Yes, amazingly fast cars. Multi-classes, different brands, Hondas, Hyundais, BMWs, and just about everything in between, just kind of expanding. And definitely, as I've kind of grown up and gotten into the racing, I've always been working on the cars, working with the cars, taking pictures of the cars, doing whatever I could, and then now driving and working, actually trying to do a lot of the mechanical work on the cars and keeping them running at the event, we have sponsors and drivers who come drive with us who actually say they want to be a part of the team. So now we're at that point where we have drivers who want to be a part of the team. They bring their cars, we take care of the cars and do stuff like that. So yeah, it's really expanded a lot in the past few years ever since I started driving and being a lot more involved.
Awesome. So I know you're going to be doing USTCC with this car.
Yes.
Tell me about what the program for Reza Arsham looks like in the future. What are we looking like we want to finish? What do we want to accomplish? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think the F1 boat has kind of sailed, a little old for F1 somehow, right? Yeah. But definitely in the motorsport world, there's always room for improvement, right? So definitely working at USTCC and racing in the series has been excellent. Still haven't won a championship. That's kind of like looming over my head. Have race wins and stuff like that, but really want to put together a really good season that we can, fight for the championship. So hopefully that'll be, and probably not next year in this car, but after 1 or 2 years of development, then we'll win the championship in the super touring class. And then moving from there, going, working with manufacturers and stuff like that to get factory drives and rides. And I think at a lot of the upper levels of motorsport where you get into, again, it gets back to that thing where it's more about money than talent. So you need, I know that I have the talent and ability to be there, but it's about getting that factory backing and just kind of, working it one step at a time. So,
well, from meeting you here, because it's the first time we met at this event, I'm very optimistic of where you're going to take your motorsports career, man. I could tell just by the way you carry yourself as a person, and then not only that, you have Ali Arsham behind your back. I mean, that man is a savage on the track. I'm just going to say it like that. The man has a lot of wins under his belt. He has a great team. He has a sister behind him, his whole family.
Yes.
I'm telling you, you're going to do excellent things when it comes to getting on that track, I'm excited for it. And he said he was old. How old are you, bro?
22. Well,
I remember when I was 22.
It's relative, right?
That was what? 15 years ago?
15 years ago.
Is it crazy? Damn,
well, you look at someone like Max Verstappen, who started driving F1 at 16, right? I mean, it's the age as of recently, especially in F1 and stuff like that, has really gone way younger. So Formula cars is something I've never driven. I want to drive really badly. I know they are completely different, but it's something that the more different vehicles you drive and the more different aspects you drive in, you can take it back. And everything learns from something else, right? In front drive, you have to be very aggressive with the throttle and get on throttle really early. And if you apply that to a rear drive car and you can make it work, then you're even faster than you were before in a rear drive car. Mm-hmm. So everything kind of connects and works, and the more different stuff you can drive, the better.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited for your career coming forward. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you.
If there's anything you want to say before we head out of this podcast, it's your time.
Yeah, thank you, KONIG. I mean, we've always used your wheels on all our cars. My street cars have KONIGs on them. So it's excellent wheels, honestly. Great company. So we love working with KONIG. And yeah, just check us out on Instagram or Facebook, or watch on the TV show we have on NBC Sports. So thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good one. Peace.